Can I shock you?
Yes, sir.
One of the accreditation teams we had one time, they said they went through the student handbook and then they also called for evidence. And listen to me.
Yes, sir.
They saw a student placed on suspension and then student back, makeup approved and given and whatever. Listen to me. The accreditation team said, what has the student learned in terms of punishment? He said, because he's eating his cake and having it. You sent him away and now you have also given him makeup and whatever. They said punishment when meted out is to serve as corrective measure.
Hello everyone, welcome back to The Loop. On today's episode, I have the honor of having with me the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Landmark University, in person of
Professor John Ojediran.
Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thanks so much.
So I have a few questions on here that I would like to discuss with you about how management in Landmark University goes. All right? So the first thing I have is, what exactly does your role of being the Deputy Vice-Chancellor entail on a day-to-day basis, and what attracted you to leadership?
Thank you once again for having me.
Yes, sir.
Well, that question you have asked, maybe I will direct you to go have my letter of appointment that actually detailed what my functions will be. But quickly, as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, I chair the Senate Business Committee. Okay. It is the Senate Business Committee that guides the deliberation of Senate. And you know, Senate is the overall body.
Yes, definitely.
That reports, through the chair of Senate to the board. So all issues that have to do with the university, academic, non-academic, comes to the Senate Business Committee, which I chair. Okay. And we now guide the deliberation on the floor of Senate. Yes. Secondly, I also chair the quality assurance for the entire university. How do I mean? In academics, we have to ensure quality of our delivery. So all academic process is under the purview of the quality assurance, and I also chair, I chair that committee. Wow. In terms of day-to-day, functions, yes, I am directly, in charge of the Landmark University Development Ventures, LMDV, which you all are familiar with.
Yes, sir.
Yes, they report to me and I report, to the board through management, to ensure smooth running of all, ventures of the university. And the ventures actually take care of you all. Yes. So those are some, and then, being specific as per students, the office of the DVC, just like the office of the Vice-Chancellor and virtually every other office, Landmark is blessed. Unlike in conventional universities and perhaps some private universities, but much more, I'm speaking for myself as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor. That office is ever open to you students. You know that much.
We appreciate you,
yes,
sir.
And
thank you, sir.
You have a listening ear anytime tea. Yes, and issues that the office of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor perhaps cannot tackle, I make sure I report to my chief executive. That's the Vice-Chancellor. And we are privileged, we are honored to have a listening Vice-Chancellor. Whatever I take to him, the Vice-Chancellor listens to me. Yeah, so we can go on and on, not to talk of some ad hoc functions again.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my role in the chaplaincy is quite known to you all, over the years, by privilege. God has helped me on this ground, it's all about relevance.
Yes, sir.
I think on all fronts, God has helped me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, and what attracted you to leadership?
Well, leadership, that question, what attracted me, might not, maybe you put it, how did I navigate to leadership? Yes, leadership, I think, is not what you should aspire to. Let it let it be conferred on you. Yes, and leadership is not conferred just like that. There are things that obviously must be seen.
Yes.
Yes, one of which is what I mentioned earlier, relevance. Yes, I got, by God's grace, I'm a pioneer staff that is from, the onset. Yeah, I've been here and I never aspire to any leadership. I just enjoy service in whatever capacity. I was the pioneer farm, farm practice chair, and I will crisscross every bush on this ground, those early days. And I think gradually, that was how, God in His mercy, using, the chancellor and the proprietor base from one assignment to another assignment, to another assignment. But I must say this, I've worked with several vice-chancellors from inception, and God has used them all, to draw me closer on account of what they have seen. But perhaps, I must commend the late Professor Isaac Obaya. That was the woman, I think, that catapulted, God used to catapult me to serious leadership. From I was coordinator of a department, later became acting, and there were professors on ground, heavyweights. But Professor Abaya picked Dr. John Ojediran and said, "You will be the dean." Wow. It wasn't funny, but I became dean, and I did that for 3 years, and God in His mercy, later brought me back again, to be dean again. Yes, after I think a break of 3 years or so. So, I give God all the glory. On this ground, I've had privilege to move from chair of committee to coordinator of department, to acting head of department, to acting dean of a big college. We used to have it as College of Science and Engineering then. Yes, much later when it was split into two, I was now brought back again as dean, College of Engineering. I've been director, university-wide course, and the list goes on before I finally became the Deputy Vice-Chancellor. Wow. So that's how my trajectory has been in leadership.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you for that insight, sir. So the next one I have is, how is Landmark University positioning its students for competitiveness on a global stage? And what opportunities exist for students on an international level?
Thank you very much. This is a very meaningful question. And I'm happy you all are witnesses. Yes, we just concluded the resource verification for new programs, and it was exciting addressing the team for artificial intelligence, and
cybersecurity.
Yeah, cybersecurity, and the chair of that team, a professor, a lady, spoke glowingly, and this was one area which, she was impressed when I had to address her, by the grace of God on this ground, our students cannot be whisked behind when it comes to competitions, whether at regional level, national level, or the global space, and we give God all the glory for, you students making us proud. How many of you already have your startups? It's on account of the conducive atmosphere that the university, through the proprietor base, through huge investment, has created for us all, to be able to express our God-given potential, And you know that any day, anytime, Landmark University management is always out, to support you students. Despite all that is going on in the nation, of course, we now needed to rejig. Yes, you know how frequent your competitions were some 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
But on account of security and all of those things, we have had to scale down on quite a number of them. But thank God, Landmark University students, the world is a global village now.
Yes.
You still engage. You still engage somehow, and the management never cease to encourage you, wherever necessary. So the university is still committed, to, encouraging our students to engage in global competitions any day, anytime, anywhere. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Some students feel like some of the policies that have been set out in the institution are a little bit too strict. What's your perception on that, sir?
Well, each time I hear students talk in this manner, of course, I tell you, students, till you get out there and you look back, you thank God. Yes, you would thank God. There is no society without rules and regulations. Any society without do's and don'ts, there will be chaos. Because where there is no law, they say there is no sin.
True.
All of these policies that have been put in place, they are not in any way, to destroy you, to break you. No. They are not in any way to destroy you or to break you. For instance, I was in lecture yesterday, yes, and before I commenced that lecture,
yes, sir,
I had to make my students, they just came in for that lecture. So in all fairness, they were not responsible. In fact, they were just coming in from TMC. I said, guys, we can't have this lecture in this. Yes. Now, how much emphasis during announcement, during chapel, university forum, they keep announcing. But when some persons will still deliberately choose to behave the way they want to behave, the larger body suffers it. You needed to see empty bottles dropped here, biscuit wrapper dropped here, things dropped here. This is not how to run a world-class university. And you have trash cans everywhere positioned. I'll never forget my experience in London. One time, the Queen's Palace, Buckingham Palace,
yes,
is opened to the entire public,
yes, sir,
on some specific occasion, specific day. So this day it was open. I'm not talking about the Queen's bedroom. I'm just talking about the garden.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Buckingham, you will see, the red guards everywhere, but it's open to the general public. So we went, and you just have a great time. You see people playing orchestra music, which I love, Then I got a can of drink, and then we're moving around. And by the time I was through with it, African man, I was to throw. My sister quickly held my hand. He said, John, don't try that. And it wasn't long. We got to the place, and I just dropped it.
There's a bin somewhere around.
At a point in time, I felt pressed and wanted to, John, what do you want? I said, Africa, we live freely. He said, they will pick you up. I had to hold myself.
Yes, sir.
Now, that is what Landmark University is trying to imbibe in every one of us. Everywhere around you see trash can, just simply, yes, you have refreshed yourself. Don't drop it anyhow. Once you get to the right place, drop it. And if only we comply, what happens? Life becomes so meaningful.
True.
Life becomes so easy. don't drop things from can you imagine the topmost floor? Somebody has taken his, and wash plate and poured. The other time, they were almost soaking the Vice-Chancellor.
Wow. Wow.
Right from top. They didn't know who were there. I was, standing by his side, and though some distance, they were almost pouring. Of course, we told the young man to come from up there. Yes. So policies are not in any way meant, even at home, you have rules.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, you have rules. Not to talk of, you are bringing, almost 4,000 students from different backgrounds with different baggages. No, policies must be put in place. Otherwise, it will be like Tower of Babel. Everybody will do what he likes, and the place will no longer be conducive for every one of us. As a matter of fact, very soon I'm coming up with a proposal, and I know it will go through. That is what I enjoyed during farm practice days. And there is a grace upon me that students, I don't know, they just love me. So I know if I come, students will not say no. Yes, I want us to declare a day of sanitation. Have you seen that Landmark is now becoming a shadow of its former self? You move even in corners that you don't expect, you see the whole place littered. I'm not too comfortable at all. You need to Google and see the accolades Landmark has received in time past.
Yes, sir.
Neat campus, and I'm concerned, that you senior guys will soon be going. The younger ones that are coming, they are imbibing some culture from you, which makes the place, because yours is 1, their own will be times 4 of, improper behavior, So policies are put in place, my dear. It's not that they are stringent, I've always maintained, and I keep telling you, there are persons who have gone through this same ground.
Yes, sir.
They've passed through the same ground. They don't even know what offense form is like. Deborah was my student. The female student that broke record, I think 3-4 sessions ago. Yeah. She's overseas now. When you see her, Gengele, is a book and then a proper. No, such persons don't even don't have time for SD. Where will they, So if others have gone through neat, then it's doable. It's possible.
Yes, sir.
It's very, very possible. So policies, they are not stringent, just enjoy them. And you see yourself, flying. You see yourself flying. Yeah.
So, the said punishment or consequence for certain offenses here on campus is 3-week suspension off campus. That's for some offenses that students have committed. I know I've always wondered, hasn't there been a way that management could have come up with other punishments that doesn't involve sending them off campus, maybe community service? Just like you said, you're thinking about the sanitation day. Hasn't there been conversations that the management has had towards keeping students on campus doing other things rather than sending them home for 3 weeks?
Can I shock you?
Yes, sir.
One of the accreditation teams we had one time, they said they went through the student handbook and then they also called for evidence. And listen to me.
Yes, sir.
They saw a student placed on suspension and then student back, makeup approved and given and whatever. Listen to me. The accreditation team said, what has the student learned in terms of punishment? He said, because he's eating his cake and having it. You sent him away and now you have also given him makeup and whatever. They said, punishment when meted out is to serve as corrective measure. That bringing students back after serving their term and no retribution in terms of what they have lost, they say you will encourage others. They will say, once I come back, they are giving me. That informed our rejigging whatever measures are being meted out. You all are witnesses that you can go on a 3-week suspension. Once you are back, makeup is giving you whether your makeup C and whatever. It's no longer business as usual. So for persons, you have 12 to 15 weeks, most times 12, 13 weeks, because the remaining 2 weeks you have as a revision and whatever. So effectively 12 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And a human being is missing 3 weeks. And NUC requirement is 75%. That's the benchmark.
Yes, sir.
A student like that coming back, you can't afford, whether it is from your roll call down to chapel, everything linked.
Yes, sir.
It is one thing that led to the other.
True.
Landmark never began like this, but as the propensity to break law kept increasing in students, we needed to also rejig. So the issue of people 3 weeks suspension, keep them on campus, how do you engage them? Because 3 weeks suspension, you are not to be in lectures and whatever. In the process, the idle man is the devil's workshop. You can't. So the best thing is 3 weeks suspension. Go home. In the course of the 3 weeks, even parents will be on your neck. What kind of shame are you bringing to us? Your pastor at home will also be brought there. We are believing God. We are also praying for you that in the course of those 3 weeks, you will have become sober. Yes, you will have become sober, and then when you return, you should think better. So that's the thing. Now I need to, in rounding up this question,
yes, sir,
also let you know that meaningful universities now are also rejigging as far as students' disciplinary measures are concerned. University of Ife, that is OAU, not quite long.
Yes, sir.
In fact, their own is even tougher than ours. They had to come out with it. Ladies, you can't dress anyhow again. Guys, you can't dress anyhow again. And then you needed to see the punity. I, for one, felt, bad. This one is too much now.
And I know it gained some traction on social media where people were complaining that some of the rules were
that this one is too much. Now, that is so-called public university, And in case you don't know, quite a number of world-class universities now are also banning the use of phones while you're on campus, because they have also seen that this thing is not helping at all. So what I tell Landmark students is, please, maximum 4 or 5 years, you're done. But you see, these 4 or 5 years, you can choose to enjoy it.
Sir.
By the time you step out there, it has become your lifestyle. So that, a disciplined life is no longer a thing of struggle for you. And it's gain. It becomes gain for you. Out there with the lawlessness going on, you are already a made man by the grace of God. So please enjoy it. Enjoy it.
So, but on the matter on mobile devices, SIM-enabling devices, with how the world is changing globally and how certain people don't even have to go to 9-to-5 jobs anymore, some people work from their devices, don't you think that's a little bit of a setback to some of the students on campus?
Now, is it that altogether you are not allowed the use of this? You will agree with me, it is not true. Ashebidas, is that not a device he's using?
It is.
It's not true. You are allowed the use of your mobile devices, however, within permissible range. And even within the permissible range, it is one thing that led to another. It's one thing that led to another. Look, all that the Chancellor under God seeks to achieve is that, look, let these ones not be churned out like all others.
Yes, sir.
That is why it's on record. I'm talking about students who took to learning and teaching and proper behavior. It's on record. Landmark graduates, Covenant University graduates, in any employment circle, they come out tops. I went for an official assignment in Abuja as Dean, of engineering then.
Yes, sir.
And honestly, this was how I was seated. Din upon din upon din will come out that the employability rate, they said there are graduates. In fact, one of the days came out and became so passionate, he couldn't hide it. He said, graduates of Covenant University, anywhere you get them, they are different. And these are things from public universities attesting.
Yes, sir.
So that's our joy. That's our joy that, you get out from Landmark University, appear on any interview panel. The name Landmark, the name Covenant alone opens doors for you.
Yes.
It's a thing of joy. It's a thing of joy, And despite all the roadblocks, your generation, Gen Z, is high tech. There are people who still, they break.
Yeah.
They break into this.
Yes, sir.
It wouldn't have been a problem even if you break into it, is for productive ventures. But no, the case we just handled, it's not a male. It's a female taking a nude picture and sending it. It's happening. So on account of such things, we needed to, yes. If I tell you some calls that parents make, please, just because they have lost hope at home. These are people that cannot be. And we tell them, well, we're doing our best, but Landmark, you must know, is not a reformatory ground.
Yes.
Yes. We do the much God enables us, for those who open up themselves. There's nothing the Holy Spirit cannot do on this ground, but that is if you are willing. Yes, that is if you are willing. Yeah, so please, nobody stops you from using your mobile devices, but use them for productive ventures. Yes.
Thank you for that, sir. So how open do you think management is to student feedback?
Thank you very much. Yes. I went to public university. Of course, all of us. It's your generation that you are highly privileged. All of us. All of us went to public university talking about management. I stayed 6 years in the university for my engineering course. I have only met the Vice-Chancellor one-on-one for just about 2 minutes in my 6 years sojourn. Late Professor Jibril Aminu was my Vice-Chancellor, the former Minister of Petroleum Resources. Very brilliant man. Yeah, just for 2 minutes. And it is not on purpose. I was just in front of the lecture theater when the person came by my side, dressed in jeans, me wearing jeans trousers. And he tapped me, he said, guys, let's do this thing.
Yes, sir.
And by the time I looked, it was the Vice-Chancellor.
Wow.
Yes, just for about 2 minutes. He may probably not even remember. But back to what you have asked. Landmark University Management, you guys are all witnesses. Yes. I only hope you are not abusing it anyway. You see your Vice-Chancellor, at least on this ground, no week passes without you. At least there are 2 solid fora which you can meet the Vice-Chancellor.
Yeah.
Tuesday or Thursday, not to talk of other days. Of course, as per the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, even midnight, I'm available to you, isn't it? Right. So if persons that are available to you, how disposed are they to listening to you? I will tell you they are. I will tell you we are. 3 days ago, I got today is what, Friday?
Yes, sir.
No, Tuesday. I got a distress call from my daughter. I have a set of twins, identical girls. And the voice was shaky. I said, calm down, what is it? He said, Daddy, it is this transporter on campus. He has been scamming students. I've just paid to him, and I saw my money entered, but he's saying that he didn't enter and whatever. I've been there, and I saw it. that he has scammed more than, and now he's here saying he will beat me up. And what I say, calm down. You know. Students, nobody will even bother with her. You know. In the long run, they say, no, they didn't even see. She said, I've seen this man, even today that you are saying, I've seen him more than 10 times. This is they wouldn't listen. Now, can I tell you this?
Yes, sir.
There is no single complaint. You know, because you people have my email, you have VC's email, you have registrar. There's no single complaint that we get that we quickly, you all are witness. Registrar till midnight, is he not with you people?
Yes, sir.
There's no single complaint coming from you, you know, when it has to do with food. It falls back on my desk. We can't afford, because the Chancellor was not here. The Chancellor was not here. You know, no single complaint coming from you people that we take lightly. Results have just been released. Is it not being announced? You have issues. Please, quickly, you know, get. You don't see this done in quite a number of even private universities. The school I'm telling you about, I'm saving them their names. By Thursday, faculty and staff are already finding their. So who plays the in loco parentis role? I keep asking as a matter of fact, my daughter came here for sideways. Can I shock you?
Yes, sir.
She said, Dad, this is the time I now see how a lab should look like. You know, and we are paying, the fees I'm paying there is higher than what a landmark is paying. And yet no standard lab. It was when she came here, she said, I now see what a standard lab should be like. So what I appeal to you students is, you know, I wouldn't want you to blow your blessings, your privileges, to take them out of proportion. You know, there are some things you students too ask for that you know, this shouldn't be. They shouldn't be.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you know, you talk in terms of food. In fact, you have put my office under pressure. You know, because anything food, including proprietary, you know, DVC, come and answer. So you say, you need this. I quickly summon the team. They are called asking for variety. They do the variety, you know, do everything. Until Secretary Board of Regents and then VC, they sent several times independently. They say, what is the complaint about it? This food is tasty enough. I said, well, I don't know what students are asking for again. Each time persons are coming from that university, my daughters will insist, Daddy, please send us our bread or send us our bread. Don't they have bakery? No, they do. Go and see the bread. My daughters will tell me, Kai, Daddy, Landmark University students don't know what they're enjoying. You know, power goes in that place, you're on your own. And we are paying heavily. We're paying heavily there. Over here, you see what it is. Yes, so please, you know, I'm happy for this forum. You know, you will carry the message back. There's what students can do too to help their university. Create less tension for the university. Please do. And when things go like this, management, proprietor base will know, can now focus on more important things, you know, that in the long run will benefit all of us. So management is open to is just that typical of you students. You think you bring this one, you bring this one, you bring that one, everything must be on. It doesn't work like that.
Yes, sir.
Even in marriage, I mean, tell me which wife gets 100%. You know, which husband gets 100% of what he needs. It's all, let's make do with what we have.
Compromise.
Thank you very much. Let's make do with what we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what would you say is the most difficult thing about being the Deputy Vice-Chancellor?
Well, you know, Deputy Vice-Chancellor is deputy. Of course, part of my, terms of reference too, and other assignments as designated by the Vice-Chancellor. Yes, a time came on this ground where they said, the office of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, we don't make it attractive. I wasn't Deputy Vice-Chancellor then.
Yeah.
They said there's nothing attractive about you because, it is as you are told to do by your boss that you do, which is true anyway. Which is true anyway. But I think, it all has to do with individuals. Offices are privilege. Yes, they are privilege. There are better persons who can be Deputy Vice-Chancellor. But God picked on you. That is what guides whatever I do on this ground. Yeah, so in terms of difficulty, I wouldn't use the word difficulty, because under God, I know my limits as Deputy Vice-Chancellor.
Sir.
And I've never wrested power with my boss. When you know that and you have grace,
Yes, sir.
then the work becomes meaningful. Anywhere you have seen crisis, whether president of a nation and vice president, check it. It's the human factor. The president remains the president. The vice-chancellor remains the overall. I report to him. And we work amicably that way. And I pray whoever is coming next as Deputy Vice-Chancellor will also, have this understanding. Anywhere you have seen friction is the human factor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because quite frankly, the Vice-Chancellor is the overall. In any university, the Vice-Chancellor is the overall. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So when your tenure ends as the Vice-Chancellor, what legacy do you hope to be leaving behind? And what impact do you hope to have had on students, staff, and every member of faculty?
Thank you very much. Well, let me begin, with students, because I'm there for them. The legacy, I hope and I pray, I must have left, and I'm still pressing that I will leave, is that in me, you found a father figure. You also found a friend, that you can approach anytime and open up yourself. Shebi, I was outside and he came to call me several times. I said, no, when I'm done with it, I was responding to student mail.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and one even had to press and I'll call. Sir, when will I said, right now I'm about entering it is still you student program. I can't tell you when I will finish. And after now, I have the whole of this weekend, I'm handling an executive class. So the best thing when you see me in chapel, whatever little time, yes, So I want to leave that legacy of one that was approachable, one that you can, open up. And I've had ladies, you guys, perhaps how we want to see you, and they open up. And we're able to, yes, yeah. For faculty and staff, I hope I will be remembered, for one that stabilized the system. How do I mean? Yes, through the help of God, we made management. Thank God for the VC. We made management to have human face. Faculty and staff, there is no door that is shut at them. I want to be remembered for one that bears the burden of fellow colleagues. You need to see in the management meeting when we have to handle issue of faculty. We are passionate. Yes, we are passionate, because if they are happy, we are also happy. Yes, and it makes the work to go on. And for Landmark University at large, I will want to be remembered, for one that, from inception has been a stakeholder, one that operated as having a stake, in the father's business.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I will look back the past 15 years, and when I'm gone from here to another place, like the Chancellor will always pray for us higher ground, I want to look back, yes, and be remembered that I ran these years as a stakeholder, not not an employee.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that all that God enabled me to do to stabilize the system, God helped me to do that. So these are some things I would love to be remembered for. Yes, selfless service. Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. It has been an honor having you in our presence today. We've had such a blessing from your inside. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you guys for tuning in on The Loop. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you very much, sir.
That's a good one.
Thank you very much, sir. Really
Heaven
appreciate
bless
you.
you.